Hi, I'm Caden Hardy, and I want to show you how to use the Chamsys MagicQ MQ50. This is the DMX board that we use here in the studio at Bates Technical College, so let's get into it. Before we get started, I'm not going over anything too complex, just the basic operations on how to turn lights on, save them as a Q, and save that as a so that if the board gets shut down, you still have it available for next time. Additionally, when I refer to a head, I'm referring to a light. In the board, they're called heads, so I'm going to be calling them that as well. And just know that whenever I'm referring to a head, I'm referring to a light, so each light fixture is a head. Let's get into how to use the board. So the first thing we want to do is we want to start up the desk. The way we do this for this board is it's back here in the corner, right next to where the light comes out. It's just out of view for the light, but it's back here. If you put your hand back here, you'll feel a switch, and if you press it down, and it'll spring back up, and as you can see, the board will boot up. It'll take a second. And now that you see this screen, we're just going to click Continue Show. From here, it'll drop you off on the setup page, but every time you first sit down at the desk and start it up, or if it's already started, I recommend going to the setup menu, which we're already on here, but just to show you, it's this setup button right here. If you click on it, then click Load Show on the screen, click Yes after it asks, and then from here, you'll want to choose the show that your studio uses. Every studio will most likely use a different show file. For us, I know it's this default one, so I'm going to select it. If you don't know what show your studio uses, then you'll want to ask whoever your instructor or leaders are. Now that we've loaded our show, we can click on the Lay 1 button down here, and that'll bring us to this layout of this 4-split of group, position, color, and beam. If you're ever on a menu you're not totally sure of, you can almost always click on Lay 1 and it'll bring you to this screen. In the top left corner, you can see our groups. Above that, I can also select View Heads to view each head individually. Go back to Groups, and I'm going to select one of the groups by clicking on it, either with the touchscreen or using the mouse. From here, now that I have selected a group, I can increase the intensity by moving the X wheel. Additionally, I can press the little blue button next to it to cycle between 0, 100, and 50%. Each of these wheels are attached to a separate one of these side menu options. So each of these are attached to their respective box, and the X is attached to this bottom one, and the Y is attached to this second to bottom. You can see that there's not too many settings on the sides because these heads don't support too many settings. You will get different options depending on 1, what the head supports, and 2, what menu is selected. Right now, I've in the groups menu, and these heads don't support too many settings. So if I go to a different menu, either by clicking on the screen, or I recommend clicking one of the 4 buttons here, the group, POS or position, color, and beam buttons. If I select the color button, you'll notice it gives me different options. Again, these lights don't support too many options, so the only thing it gives me is color temperature. And I can change that by, again, as I mentioned, the X wheel is attached to this bottom one, so now this X wheel changes the color temperature. If I click the clear button, and this is an important concept to understand, whenever you modify a light using this method, by selecting them here and changing them using the wheels, you are only changing them in the programmer, which operates as an override to get the lights to how you want them to be set, and then saving them after that. The way that works is that you'll notice if I click clear, it releases them, so they're no longer selected, and it resets the intensity back to 0. An important thing to note is that this only resets intensity. All other settings are left. So an example with this is if I reselect the soft panels, I turn them up, I go into color, and I change the color temperature. So now they're a quite cool color temperature. If I click clear, and then I reselect them again and turn them back up, you will notice that they are still that cool color temperature that I set them to. You'll notice that it's not appearing. That is because it has not been overridden, as to say, in the programmer, which is again what this is. So if I change this now, you'll notice it'll appear as the 6500K that it was set to before I cleared it. If I set them back and I clear it again, it clears their selection and their intensity, but everything else stays. So if I again turn them back up, they'll be the warm color that they were before. As I said, different heads give you different options. We have, if I go to the heads menu and I select, we have rogues in our studio, which are movers. They also support a bunch of other settings. You'll notice that they have appeared here now. They used to be grayed out, but now a lot of options have appeared. If I select if I first of all turn them up, or the one that I have selected up, and I click on position, I can now change their position and settings. If I change the tilt and I rotate it a bit, you can see it's moving around. Additionally, this has gels in it. So if I select the color menu, I can either click on the screen using my finger through the touchscreen, or I can also change them using the wheels here. I can cycle through them, you can see, as well as the beam. Normally, we do not use the beam options here in the studio, but this is how you would change them. I can cycle through them using the wheel, or again, using the screen. And then I can change the focus. So that's actually in focus. Just like that. Again, gobos are not something that we normally use here in the studio. We normally just clear it to open and then have it reflect off the back wall or something similar. Let's set up the lighting to how I might want it during a show, and we'll come back. Okay, so I have now adjusted many of the lights to how I might want them during a show. So what we're going to start out doing is I'm going to go into the groups, and I'm going to select all the ones that I have modified. So in this case, I've modified the rogues, the soft panels, and the in-facing spots. You can also do this separately via the heads, but I think it's much easier just to select these three instead of having to hunt down each separate head that I have modified. From here, I'm going to go through each of the 4 menus and make sure each value is modified. So intensity, this one, I'm going to make sure that they're set to 0 as well. And I'm going to go on the color. And beam. And if it's not something I'm using, I'm also going to make sure that it's set to 0. I also suggest making sure that they're not doing anything weird as you do this. The reason we do this is so that when we save it as a queue, all the settings will be set back to 0. As I mentioned before, when I click the clear button, it does not reset values that are not saved. So if I now go to the Q store by clicking on the Q store button here, I can click on the record button, and I can select one of the many empty slots. I'm going to select Q1, and now all the settings that I have selected has been saved, including all the ones that are still at 0, but we still selected them. If I now click clear, you'll notice that the studio goes dark. However, I have not lost all the progress I've made. I can just click Q1 and it'll come back to the exact way that I have it set up before. Additionally, fun little tip, if you want to name the specific cue, you can click on the set button, then on the screen select the cue you want to rename, and then from here you can rename the cue. I'm going to name it my Q. Click return. You'll notice that it's now saved as my Q. From here, you can also save this as a show. An important thing to know is that if you turn the board off and turn it back on, or someone else loads a different show, you will lose this. What we can do is we can click on the setup button again, take us to the setup menu, and click on save show. And then from here, you can name it. So I'm going to name it my show. Oops. There we go, and click on return. Now, if you try and name it a show that has already been made, it will ask you if you want to overwrite it. If you know that you want to overwrite it, like it's your own show and you're overwriting your own, do that. Otherwise, you don't want to overwrite other people's shows. Now, if the board is turned off and back on again, I can click on the load show button. It'll ask if it'll erase the current show. We'll click yes. And you'll notice we now have myshow.shw. If we click on this, it'll reset everything. However, if we go back into the Q store, you'll notice it's still here. You can click on it, and it'll all go back to exactly how we had it before. Now you know how to turn on the board as well as light a show, store it as a cue, and save it so that you have it for next time. I've been Kane Hardy with Bakes Technical College, and I hope this video has been at least somewhat helpful.